The interlude season before Chapter 7, Fortnite SIMPSONS, which brought us to the chaotic world of Springfield, is almost at an end, and its story has all been building up to the highly anticipated Chapter 6 finale. Last season, Chapter 6 Season 4 Shock and Awesome, we helped OXR fight back the Swarm, also known as the Bugs or the Onimorphs, while Hope and Jones devised a plan to breach the Spirit Realm and confront the Dark Presence. With the help of Megazord, we eventually succeeded in driving away the Swarm, or at least so we thought. It turned out that something bigger up the food chain, that being the Dark Presence, was actually approaching, and the Bugs retreated to make way for its arrival. The island had to prepare for what was coming, therefore General Onyx Winter assigned all of OXR's assets to the command of Jones and Hope, who were leading the siege on the Spirit Realm. A week before the end of season mini-event, the Simpsons aliens known as Kang and Kodos arrived onto the island, and an unusual cell-shaded sapling which grew into Bart Simpson's treehouse emerged in the top left corner of the map. Eventually, zero-point energy surrounded the treehouse, which began to slowly tear open a portal to the Spirit Realm. Hope and Jones took notice and tried to seal off the portal with Jones's upgraded portal device. Unfortunately, their intervention only fast-tracked the inevitable. The energy from the rift device made the portal big enough to allow the Dark Presence to cross onto the island. Upon seeing the Dark Presence, Kang and Kodos immediately fell in love with the creature, and to prove their loyalty to it, they attacked and abducted Hope and Jones, only for things to go sideways from there. Hope and Jones hijacked the spacecraft to attack the Dark Presence and used the tractor beam to take back the shard from the monster. But before they could do so, the Dark Presence tossed them into a wormhole between realities, and they only succeeded in retrieving a small fragment of the Zero Shard. Kodos planned on bringing everyone safely to Springfield, however, Hope and Jones needed to go back to Reality 783 to stop the Dark Presence. As a result, Hope and Kodos argued over what to do and recalibrated back and forth between the two realities, which ultimately led to the creation of a new pocket reality merging both features, Springfield Island. While the group was processing what had just happened, they didn't notice the incoming battle bus, which crashed straight into the UFO and caused a fragment of the Zero Shard to fall into the home of Homer Simpson. Fast forwarding us to the beginning of the season. With the Zero Shard fragment in the hands of Homer, he sought to turn Springfield into a paradise whilst trying to simultaneously avoid Hope and Jones, who were actively trying to take back the fragment from him and return to Reality 783. Surprisingly, this mini-season has been pretty packed with lore, so sit back, relax, and let's unravel the story of Springfield Island. Following the first Simpsons short where Homer acquired the splintered Zero Shard and merged it with his remote, we joined Hope and Jones in trying to figure out what was going on and how we can get back the Zero Shard fragment. In part 1 of the story quests, Apocalypse though, we look around Springfield Island to familiarize ourselves with the place and analyze things changed by Homer. To try and get more information, we tried speaking with the locals, but it was to no avail. Therefore, we had to locate Homer and speak with him directly. When we paid Homer a visit and asked for the shard back, he refused. However, he said he could be persuaded if we brought him the new squishy flavor in town and demanded an audience with the mayor. And so we did exactly that. Unfortunately, when we returned to Homer, he explained that upon further consideration, he decided to keep the shard, claiming he likes it and the shard likes him. Homer wanted the best for Springfield, but he didn't fully grasp the danger of possessing a Zero Shard fragment. The second Fortnite Simpsons short opened with Professor Frink explaining to Homer Simpson that zero-point energy is the most dangerous force in the entire Omniverse.
Homer, your shard is loaded with zero-point energy, the most dangerous force in the Omniverse.
Marking the first time in 3 years that the Omniverse has been mentioned in Fortnite's storyline. Professor Frink sought to study the shard, but Homer told him not yet. First, he needed to turn Springfield into a paradise, and his next plan was to make it rain giant donuts. The professor was a little upset because now that he couldn't get the shard, he wouldn't be able to show anything to the Nobel Prize Committee. Fortunately, Homer had a solution and transformed Professor Frink into Peel-Fresser Frink, exciting the scientist to study his new body, leading into part 2 of the story quests, Sugar High. We started by speaking with Peel-Fresser Frink and asking him what he thought of the anomalies in Springfield. To put it shortly, he was pretty concerned, just like Hope and Jones, especially now because of all the donuts falling down from the sky. The professor explained that Homer has long proven himself impervious to logical or scientific reasoning to stop something he shouldn't be doing. Therefore, he believed that the only way to get Homer to stop using the shard is by dissuading him with the angry mob. Fortunately, the plan worked and all the residents of Springfield gathered in a town meeting. Homer had gone too far and the people of Springfield were fed up with him and sought to get rid of him. In response, Homer ran away with the Zero Shard to the Springfield nuclear facility where he disposed of it into the nuclear core. As a result, the energy of the Zero Shard merged with the nuclear waste. His problems were solved until he saw a chocolate bar near the nuclear core, tried to grab it, and then accidentally fell and drowned in the waste. This caused the power plants to erupt and create hundreds of zombie-like Homer clones that began marching towards Springfield. In the third Springfield short, hundreds of Homer clones could be seen invading the island. Fortunately, Chief Wiggum found kill switch revolvers and used them to destroy Homer's clones. Upon being destroyed, residual gas containing Homer's essence began to coalesce into a giant cloud within Springfield's sky. Part 3 of the story quest, Multiple Idiocy, weren't really that important. All that really happened was that Bart and Lisa were just trying to get Homer's attention. Eventually, once all the clones of Homer were destroyed, Homer's essence merged back into him, but instead of returning to his ordinary form, Homer returned as a giant. Hope explained that the reason why Homer was so huge was because the Zero Shard fragment was somewhere hidden within him. Lisa believed that giant Homer could be used as a force for good, but then her father immediately proved her wrong as he began to wreak havoc all over Springfield. Homer had to be stopped, so Hope worked with Marge to find a way to coax the shard out of Homer and stop him from causing any further destruction. In the fourth and final Simpsons short, Hope and Jones discovered that the Zero Shard fragment was within giant Homer's stomach. Marge asked Hope what they could do to help Homer, and Hope suggested,
"Absolutely. We can vaporize his motor cortex, rendering him immobile, then extract the shard with a strike team through the lower bowel."
You don't have a lot of friends, do you?
Marge stared at Hope after what she said and called out Hope for having no friends, to which Jones responded with, "She does," but while Hope was looking away, Jones was shaking his head, confirming Marge's statement. Nevertheless, Hope said taking back the Zero Shard was their #1 priority, and she was willing to do whatever it takes to get it back. They needed to take down the Dark Presence, which Hope referred to as the Demon Master. Marge suggested talking with Homer, but Hope was in a rush and tried to immediately get the shard from Homer. As expected, Hope's plans backfired, so Jones suggested they go with Marge's plan instead, leading to the final set of story quests, Part 4, The Incredible Bulk. Marge had a lot on her plate already, raising a family and now protecting her family from an angry mob, so she devised a plan to emotionally reach Homer and have him give up the shard. After collecting photos of special family moments from the Simpsons family, we put together a collage on a large theater board for Homer to see, which read, "Do it for us." Homer's love for his family convinced him to give up the shard, and after emoting near him, he burped out the Zero Shard fragment, which landed near the Springfield sign. The shard was finally secure. In the meantime, we also worked with Professor Frink to discover a way to modify Jones's portal device. We were tasked with collecting a sarcasm director and hamburger earmuffs, which we brought back to Hope. She didn't really know how those would help with modifying the device, but she said she was gonna figure it out. As expected, Marge's reasoning with giant Homer worked, and Hope and Jones got the Zero Shard fragment back, but Jones used oven mitts to hold it to ensure nothing would happen to him. Professor Frink then tried to shrink Homer using his debigulator, and unfortunately it did nothing. Homer was bloated with Zero Shard energy, causing him to remain giant. Hope actually used this to her advantage and asked if Homer could help them fight against the Demon Master, to which he eventually agreed upon. An interesting thing to note in the final short though is that the Dark Presence's true title might actually be the Demon Master. Throughout this entire short, the Dark Presence was repeatedly referred to as the Demon Master. Remember, the Dark Presence was only referred to as a dark presence since that's what Daigo sensed in the spirit realm, but that isn't his actual title. Logically, it also makes sense for his name to be the Demon Master because all throughout chapter 6, he was referred to as a master multiple times.
Serve the master.
And that concludes the entire Fortnite Simpsons storyline explained. The Fortnite Chapter 6 finale 0 Hour approaches, and it's going to be the biggest and greatest Fortnite storyline event ever, so make sure to be there. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one, Lore Keepers.